Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Furman Joust podcast brought to you by Ardensburg and Grill here in Central South Carolina. Make sure you come by, see Donnie and Angie. They make the best food that you could ever put in your mouth. It's really so great. Sorry if we seem a little somber. We just got some news, and we'll go over that here in a second. But just thanks to Pepsi Cola, one of our sponsors, also Upstate Physical Therapy in Anderson, South Carolina. And like I said, Ardensburg and Grill here in Central. If you got to have a Super Bowl party this Sunday, come by, see Donnie and Angie. They got burgers, they got wings, they make trays. They'll have meat and three from 11 to 2:30. Last week they're selling out every week early, so get here early to do that. But if you want a Super Bowl tray, you need to come by before Saturday. Put your order in so it'll be ready for you Sunday when you come.
My wife and I are doing just that.
Yep, exactly. And I'll be doing it too.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to beat.
But I'm gonna let you start off with the news we just got.
We knew things had been a little bit quiet, a little bit depressing, if you will, on campus the last couple of days since Bryce Stanfield, the junior defensive football player from Ackworth, Georgia, had a major medical incident 2 days ago, working out in the morning.
Yeah.
And we just found out maybe 5 minutes ago that Bryce did not make it. He passed away, the prime of your life in your early 20s. And, just say a prayer for everybody up there on campus, but more for his parents, his family, and, just shows you how precious life is. We had all this information lined up, to talk about on the podcast today, but as I was telling Donnie here at Arden's Burgers, it just kind of changes things because we were wondering what was going on as we saw all these events and games on campus being postponed this weekend. And it was actually UJ that said, I wonder if they've got some bad news. And not 15 minutes later, we get the information. So
yeah, it just came out in a tweet that he had passed away today. So we just asked everybody to be in prayers for the family, Furman University, its students, staff, anybody that's ever been in contact with him. I know things have been pouring in all day from different universities, University of UNC Greensboro, UT Chattanooga. I mean, even though we're foes on the field, we're all together as one, and that's the blessing.
Yeah, I mean, athletes are a very tight circle, and going through all the practices, all the thing off the court or off the field, it's just that 60 minutes of playing is where they kind of get their happiness out, if you will, make it all worthwhile. But something like a passing of a young man on campus, or from 2 days ago, kind of puts a lot of things in perspective. You look at Furman basketball last year; they were the darlings of March and April, and with the upset win over Virginia down in Orlando, and then losing to the eventual runner-up San Diego State. Well, this year hasn't gone quite as planned. They're 12-12 and 6-5. But you know what? You find out this information a little bit ago, and that kind of takes the edge off. Not performing up to your potential at times. They had a lead on Tuesday night at Mercer, and then saw the Bears come back with an impressive second half and lost by 10. So, right now you've seen on campus at Furman, these athletes support each other, and they're at each other's events. So it's not just that football team hurting, it's not that athletic department hurting, it is all those athletes that put on the purple and white for Furman.
Yeah, last night I was at the ladies' game, and like with the men, with Mercer, we was leading up into the final seconds. And, and that was without three of our best stars, Kate Johnson and Tate Walters, and there was two other players that were out, injured. And they was playing with basically a makeshift team. And the girls played tough, played hard. And I gave them all the praise, even though they came up short there at the end. There was some questionable calls, but that was on both sides during the whole game. And it puts things in perspective. But we just want to quickly go over, let you know that the game Saturday for the women has been moved to Sunday. The Women's Empowerment and Girls Empowerment Day, where they signed the autograph stuff, has been postponed until further notice, of course. Also, tennis today was canceled. The men's tennis match against Gardner Webb. Now, the softball team is actually playing in Wilmington, and they just won their first game 4-1 over North Dakota State. And game 2 will be against DePaul at 5:30, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then the men play tonight also, and you kind of was going over that.
Yeah, Saturday, tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Furman at East Tennessee State on a game that you can see nationally on the CBS Sports Network. The second of 4 nationally televised games that Furman has coming up this month. And, of course, everything at this point is just simply all leading into Friday, March 8th through Monday, March 11th up at the Harrah's Cherokee Casino Courts in Asheville. And, you know, when you look at positioning, right now it looks like Sanford's going to end up running away with the regular season title. They're 10-1, minus, you know, the one loss was Furman beat them pretty good. 21-3 overall. Then you got UNC Greensboro and Chattanooga tied for second at 8-3. And then 4, 5, and 6 are Furman, Western Carolina, and Wofford, all 6 and 5 in the league. So this is a chance to maybe gain something coming up. You want to be playing your best basketball as you're rolling into Asheville next month. Yeah. I think, you know, the health of Furman and the outside shooting is what's going to be the key, because as we were talking about last week, down low, they just hadn't gotten the play that they wanted to from Garrett Heen and a few others. And, you know, as those guards shoot the ball, that's how Furman's going to do the rest of this season.
Yeah, and you know, last game I was there. Garrett, not the Mercer game, but the game before against UNC. Garrett was playing very well. He just got into foul trouble. There was 2 fouls that, I'm sorry, they just wasn't fouls. And I was able to get near a guy that had a replay thing on it, and he wasn't touched. But then there was also calls against them. So, you know, I as a fan, folks, you know, as I'm sitting there, you know, I have to look at things like objectively,
not
you know,
from the fandom side of it.
Exactly.
No cheering in the press box.
Well, it's weird. Last night, there was somebody beside me that was going a little bit too berserk, and you know, I let it slide because, you know, I'm new to the press, so I'm like, well, you know, it is what it is.
Officiating's taking a hit all around the country right now. You know, Clemson's dealt with it a couple of games, and you know, the unfortunate thing is most times it ends up evening out. You just remember the ones that went against the team that you were for. But, you know, I have some very harsh words to say about some officiating right now, not just in the SoCon, but in the ACC. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Brian Kersey, who's the director of basketball officiating for the Atlantic Coast Conference, is one of the softest, weakest-minded individuals I've ever seen, and it is literally the blind leading the blind when it comes to that. And, you know, some of those ACC officials also do games down at the Southern Conference level during the week. But, you know, my way of looking at it, if Brian Kersey's the head of officiating for the Atlantic Coast Conference, then you get what you pay for.
Exactly. And it's getting crazy. And I know some people say, well, we don't pay them enough. I mean, I don't know what officials make, so I can't really judge or make comments on that. And I know they're human. They're going to miss things, but there's just some things that just...
I mean, they're head scratching. And listen, these guys, they do it because they love the game. You know, I actually got to know Bruce Benedict, the former Atlanta Braves catcher from back in the day. You know, he was a SoCon official up until two years ago. Yeah. And I got to sit next to him one game up in Asheville. He had called the previous game and taken a shot and came up. And Bruce Benedict, you have to understand, a guy that worked for me in Knoxville, his mom was the biggest Bruce Benedict fan from the Atlanta Braves. And, you know, he sat there and talked to me. He's like, that's a bad call. This is why they were doing it. So all these guys love the game. They love what they're doing. But, hey, just look at me as an example. I screw up all the time.
Yeah. So, but you know, the basketball team, I think they still have time to make it right. So, Furman fans, just make sure you get out and support these athletes, both the men's and the women's in all sports. Especially right now, we're getting close to the tournament. The guys need to hear you. They need to get loud. I mean, I can honestly say the Furman fans have really been showing up for the men's. I wish they'd show up more for the women's too. The women's team has really been working hard and doing well. Coach Curtis has just been doing a phenomenal job with them this year for a first-year coach. And then, of course, we got a lot of different things that'll be starting up. Of course, women's tennis 1 and 2 right now. They just got finished beating UNC Asheville. They're playing Marshall and Louisville this weekend up in Washington, Virginia. So, I forget it's the city of Washington. The men's game got canceled, of course, this weekend. So it's very vital to get out there. And of course, women's softball is over in Wilmington this weekend. Lacrosse will be starting up pretty soon. So a lot of sports coming up.
And next week, take some ownership in this Furman program, because everybody enjoyed the run they made last year to their first championship in 40 years, and of course winning a game in the NCAA tournament, seeing themselves on one shining moment there at the end of the tournament. But 2 home games next week. BMI on Wednesday, and then Sunday, Chattanooga is at home. So, you know, at this point, 6 and 5 in the league, you best hold serve at home, and hope to get 1 or 2 more road wins. And, you know, schedule. Listen, the Southern Conference is 6 teams deep right now.
Yeah.
You can maybe make the case for 7. I mean, Mercer's 4 and 7 in the league, yet they had a nice win against Furman the other night. So, you know, my favorite part about that Southern Conference tournament is how the fans help each other out. You know, if your team's playing, you pick one side, you know, and you sit along that, and then when you're done, you move to the back, you know, to the end, and the next teams are able to do it. You couldn't see that at the ACC tournament, or you couldn't do that at the Southeastern Conference tournament. And I love, listen, there's 6 teams that are probably headed to the NCAA tournament from the Atlantic Coast Conference. There might be 7 or 8 from the SEC. That's why I love Asheville. It's a 1-bid league. Should have had 2 the other year. But, you know, the winner that survives Monday night, you know, that's the only bid. And to me, it's a lot more pure form of athletics. You know, win, you move on. Lose, your season's over. It's that simple.
But, you know, me personally, after watching basketball in some of these leagues, like the Big 12 is getting so much hype for its scheduling, how they schedule all these, quote, cupcakes, and they're winning by double digits, and it's supposedly helping their net, where last year that went against Clemson for scheduling cupcakes, and they're getting in. So, me personally, after watching all the games that I've watched, I think there should be at least 2 coming out of the Southern Conference this year, because there's just, actually, I would say 3, because there's 3 teams I know that could probably beat any team in the country, and that includes Furman. But Furman, I think, has to win the tournament regardless. They're not going to get in without doing it right now where they're at. But the thing is I think that there should be more looks at the Southern Conference other than what they're getting, other than just 1 bid. And that could be the same with the Big South, too.
Yeah, there are a lot of leagues like that. I mean, you want to see people get the opportunity. Do I need the 7th place team in the ACC that finished 19 and 13 to get a bid?
Yeah.
No, it's done because of the television ratings. You know, we're seeing college athletics kind of move toward how much money, how big your conference is. I mean, you know, as we get a little bit off track because of what's happened this week, and of course the death of Bryce Stanfield, look at college football as a whole, Jay. We saw it again today. Bill O'Brien, who just accepted the offensive coordinator job at Ohio State, he's out the door. He got hired by Boston College this morning as head coach. Well, it took Ryan Day all of about 2 hours to land a new offensive coordinator, and it was Chip Kelly, the head coach at UCLA. So you're seeing this trend. I'd rather just go coach and not have to deal with re-recruiting my roster, the NIL, all this stuff. It's not about coaching anymore. And that's why I think Clay Hendricks is very happy at Furman, because he's got 92 kids going through spring practice, and he's still been able to build it through the high school level.
Yeah.
They added 4 more kids all on defense the other day. Let's see, a defensive tackle from Waycross, Georgia, by the name of Demetrius Baldwin, 2 cornerbacks, Darren Coleman from Lawrenceville, Georgia, as well as Jarvis Jones from Nashville, North Carolina. Did not know there's a Nashville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then finally, a bandit, Trevor Short, who is 6'3", 210. They're going to put weight on him, but he's from San Antonio. So, there's a lot. They ended up signing 16 players for the year. A lot of South Carolina and Georgia in there, but you mentioned got one from Arizona, got one from San Antonio. So I think people like playing for Coach Hendricks. Number 2, I think when they come to Furman, they realize that they're going to have the same teammates for 2, 3, or even 4 years.
Exactly. And also they're going to get a great education.
Oh, yes. I mean, Josh Harris has told me multiple times, who has been after him in the transfer portal. We know that, there's a lot of, inappropriate things going on. He's like, Mark, I could go somewhere else, but that diploma's not going to reach Furman University across the top.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, once again, like we were saying, Furman lost a great player today. Young man that we watched play last year. He got in quite a bit.
13 games
he
played in last year.
And just gone too soon. And I know that this happens every day from different places, but when it hits home, whenever it's young men that you got to know a little bit about, and got to see, got to play, and just you hate seeing it.
Somebody you recognize. You walk down on the field, and that's Bryce. That's one of the perks, I guess, or one of the disadvantages in covering Furman. You get to know the players a whole lot more closely than you do covering Clemson or covering South Carolina, because those sports information departments are kind of bringing the information inside. They want to control their own message, so they don't give the media as much to work with. Hunter Reed and Julie Pear and Jordan Caskey and all of them in that sports information department at Furman, they're like, please come, give us some coverage. What do you need?
Exactly.
And, so I when I saw Bryce's picture the other day, I was like, I don't know him, but I know that kid.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, right before we came on, we get that message, and it's just a little bit of a stab in the heart, because as we mentioned when we first came on, it was weird that we were seeing things postponed on campus for the weekend.
Yep.
And as you surmised, if you will, we got the message that he passed away, and that's going to hit that campus hard. It's going to hit all those athletes on campus hard. But most importantly, this is a time when Clay Hendricks and the assistant coaches really got to do a good job of keeping this together. They're in the middle of or the beginning of spring practice. You may see that schedule get altered here a little bit. Right now, they're scheduled for the spring game on March 16th. There's purple-white scrimmage.
Yeah.
You might see some things get adjusted back because of it, because the entire team's going to be headed down to Acworth, Georgia for his funeral here in the next few days. And number 2, you may just have to give them 3 or 4 days to get their heads cleared.
Exactly.
You only get 15 spring practices. You want to maximize those. So maybe you give these kids 3 or 4 days to go, heal with each other, and then you back up some things on the back end, because really you can have spring practices till whatever time.
Because I know I went there last night, and I noticed that there wasn't anything going on, and you just start getting bad feelings. Last night when I got to watch the women's game, it was like everybody was just kind of in a somber mood. There really wasn't the excitement that you would normally see, and you could just feel it.
Yeah.
And you hope that it's not going to be that, but all today there was nothing being said, nothing going on. Things just didn't seem.
Everybody knew it in the background, and it's also, as fans, we go to enjoy things.
Yeah.
You know, fan is short for fanatic, and it's kind of hard to celebrate and cheer when you know somebody's battling for their life in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, and but this is when Clay Hendricks, going into his 8th season as Furman head coach. Wow, you know, it just seems like a couple of years ago he came from the Air Force Academy.
Yep.
And you were talking about earlier wanting to see more people show up for the women's basketball games. Coach Curtis is installing a culture, if you will.
He is.
When it comes to winning, is Coach Swinney says down the road, the fun's in the winning. Is they start to win more people will show up for those games. You know, I'm still a little chapped at the upstate of South Carolina as a whole from that game against Elon in the second round of the playoffs. No, it was Chattanooga, excuse me. There might have been 4,500 people there that day. About 2,000 of them were Chattanooga fans. So, you know, if the fun's in the winning and supporting winning, then I put the onus on Furman fans to also come show up and support this football team, because they're going to get into it real quick on August 31st.
Exactly.
Ole Miss has been one of the most talked about teams with the transfer portal, and of course Lane Kiffin and all that. That's who you start off with on August 31st, and then you come home for two home games, Charleston Southern and Stetson. And I have been telling Jeff Cabe up at the SoCon office, Stetson should be the next choice if the Southern Conference is going to add, because it brings that Central Florida area. DeLand's only like 30 minutes from Orlando. And then they hit the road again for a game that I think is a good matchup of schools, William and Mary.
Another team that I think we should.
So, you know, there's going to be a lot of adjustments for this football staff and this football team here over the next couple of weeks, or the next week, because, like I said, they'll all be at the funeral. You really going to bring them back and put them through a hard practice in the next 48 hours after being at that funeral? Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe these kids need to be around each other and support each other. But I think spring practice, with it being so limited, you want to go out there where everybody's focused and ready to go learn something and go hit somebody.
Yep. And for those that is wondering what might have happened, we're not going to speculate, because out of respect for the family, we don't want to start rumors and stuff like that. All we want to do now is just pray for the family, pray for the staff, the students, just anybody that's been around him. And last night I heard a couple of the top members of Furman sports was talking about how special this young man was.
Yeah.
So we just want to just be in prayer for everybody, and just especially his family.
Yeah, there's no good way to deliver this message.
No.
You know, and it brings up the fact that, you know, you and I are on the back nine of our lives, if you will.
Yeah.
Here's a 21, 22-year-old kid that had worked out and everything else, and, you know, maybe somebody missed a diagnosis in the heart back in the day. Like we said, we don't want to speculate, but every time I hear this, it hits home a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And so again, Furman's got great leadership with Dr. Davis and, of course, Jason Donnelly, the athletic director. So they'll help these kids get through it. And like I said, once this next week is over, probably getting them back into a routine is going to be the best thing that they can do. It's just, are they going to be able to get anything done from today, Friday, to next Friday? It's going to be interesting, and I'm sure that staff's meeting right now how to plan this thing out and, you know, getting the best of it, and probably maybe even change their attitude a little bit on how they're delivering things on the field. I don't know. I think this is one of those things you can't prepare for, and you just navigate it the best way.
Yep, and like we said, till we really know what happened, we're just going to say pray for the family, pray for the university. Well, it's not where we wanted to go today, but we needed to.
When I got in the car to come down here, but what I thought we would all talk about. But you know what? It helps get things in proper perspective. However, you know, the highlight of not only being on air with you, Jay, is just being able to come to Arden's. I got their teriyaki burger again today. I told you, I said, can you give me 4 minutes to finish this thing off before we get on? Because I'll be a lot better co-host in that situation. But we want to thank Donnie and everybody down here. Again, like you mentioned, they're going to be open till 2:30 with meet and 3 on Sunday. And if you order by closing tomorrow night, they'll be here till 3 o'clock. You can come pick up the food. I'm doing the small burger tray.
I'm probably doing that with wings. So,
Yep.
you know, it's definitely great to be down here. I had the s'mores French toast. They do serve breakfast all day long.
Oh, dude, that smelled so good.
Yeah.
It's like, when that came out, I was like, what you eating over here? And then I started realizing what it was. And I'm one of those people, I prefer breakfast at nighttime.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I like to be up for a while before I eat. You really want to get me down with breakfast? Let's do it for dinner.
There you go.
So, while we have a couple of minutes, can I open myself up for criticism?
Sure.
So, you know, we're building our new house up in North Georgia, and we have, I always think back to the movie The Blues Brothers. What kind of music do y'all play? We play both kinds, country and western, you know? So up in North Georgia, we have Huddle House as well as Waffle House. We popped into Huddle House last week, much bigger menu, and this may be sacrilegious. The waffles were better at Huddle House than they were at Waffle. It's almost like at times they forget how to cook a waffle, but again, that might open me up for some Southern criticism. I'm talking, you know,
I agree
the
with
weather
you.
people look at how many Waffle Houses are open during a hurricane just to see how bad the weather was. So that might have been a little sacrilegious, if you will. But you know what? After what we've talked about today, you know, you got to smile, you got to laugh, but you also got to put things in perspective.
Well, I agree, because I used to go to the Huddle House out on 76, and when it closed down, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Because I used to go there for chili there and stuff like that.
Well, wait till you and your mom come up to Georgia, and we will have a trip to the Huddle House plan.
That sounds like the plan. And but we do want to thank Pepsi Cola. We want to thank Upstate Physical Therapy. Go by and see David and Jimmy. I said Pepsi Cola. That's better than ice cold Pepsi. We're coming up on summertime, springtime. You know, get out, enjoy, love each other. Know that nobody's guaranteed tomorrow.
That's
So
right.
always leave with a smile. Never leave with hate, because we never know from day to day. Just like, you know, with us, we never know from day to day what's going to happen. All we do is just pray for each other. Thank the Lord that we have another day to hang out, have fun, do what we always wanted to do, which is enjoy sports and cover it. And thank Furman University for all they do for us.
FurmanPaladins.com for
Yep.
tickets.
Definitely go see FurmanPaladins.com. Get your tickets. Go out, support. Get your gear. We also have Redbubble.com, the Furman Joust gear. You can go by and get different things there. We got hats, shirts. I got the new bag over there, and all kinds of gear. We also have Ardens. Ardens has now got their gear through Furman Joust on the Redbubble.com. So check out the Furman Joust collection on there. You can get look for the link. It's on FurmanJoust.com. It's on GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. We're going to be covering. Both of us will be at Nashville.
Yes.
And we'll be covering the SoCon tournament. I've got about 4 different guys that's going to be covering from the women and men will be playing at the same time. It's just the women's game will be in between the men's games.
Right.
So I filled out all my credential list for that.
All right. As far as straightupsports.net, you can go right now. There's a new article up that I wrote. Is Dabo Swinney correct in all of this? You know, he got nailed a few years ago in the media for some of his comments. Willie Smith, retired from the Greenville News, has an article up on the South Carolina page, how Columbia, South Carolina is the center of the college basketball world right now. Top ranked women, 14th ranked men. Lamont Pear's doing a great job. And then finally Bob Gillespie, he has no parameters. He can write on whatever he wants. He delivered another top-notch article this week. So there are 3 new articles up on straightupsports.net. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Sturgis Sports, and finally our Facebook page. If Facebook's not going to... I keep getting told that we're going to pull this thing down. It's one of those scam things, but those are the ways you can reach me, and always happy to be here with you, Jay.
All right, and also on FurmanJoust.com, we have a link to get to Straight Up Sports. So make sure you check out everybody. He's got some award-winning writers over on Straight Up. You cannot get better than that, and we just appreciate them being a part of us. One thing about all of us is we work together, not against each other. We're not worried about.
I'm too old for that.
Yeah, we're not into the stealing information thing. It's all about getting Furman fans and people in the upstate the information they want. GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. We got writers at Tennessee. We got writers at Georgia. We got writers at Auburn. We're Kentucky. We're moving out, and we do pro wrestling. Lots of things. TheFanboys.com, of course, is your podcast central. All the different podcasts from across the nation. One of our best ones is collegesportscast.com. Make sure you go by and see them. All right, Mark.
Well, good luck on the big game. Can't call it what it is. I don't want to get sued here on our podcast for referring to it as anything other than the big game. But have a great weekend. We'll be back next week, and much bigger smiles on our face and much better information to deliver.
And my Super Bowl prediction is the 49ers.
I think so too.
I'm just not a Chiefs fan. Sorry.
Yeah, so, but anyway. All right. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week.